Hey everyone, it's Ell Marquez with LinuxAcademy.com, and we're back with our It's Okay to Be New series. Now, as a part of that, I am lucky enough to be joined today with what I would like to call our own Docker captain, but I think we have to share him with the rest of the world. So I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself to you.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Michael Irwin, and as Elle mentioned, I'm a Docker captain, but primarily I work at Virginia Tech. I'm in the central IT organization here, and I kind of say my role is 60% developer, and then the rest is architect, evangelists, looking at new cool stuff, cloud containers, all that kind of stuff. So that's what got me involved with Docker. Yeah, that's me in a 15-second nutshell, anyways. But
So I know when I tell people I'm a technical evangelist, they just kind of lift one eyebrow and stare at me. I imagine you get the same thing when you say you're a Docker captain. Could you tell us a little bit about what that
yeah.
is and how you became a Docker captain?
Sure. So a Docker captain, I'll start there, is somebody that's recognized by Docker, the company, for their expertise, but also their involvement in the community and the project, and their outreach, et cetera. And so there's several that are speakers, that are presenters, that are blog writers. There's some that are big time contributors to the engine code base. So there's some sort of contribution that we make to the community, whether through code or outreach, but then been recognized as experts. And so part of the the perks of it is we are recognized. And last time I checked, there were about 62 of us globally right now. So there's not a lot of us right now. But we get direct access to the Docker team, and so we get to talk to the engineering team and provide feedback, both going to Docker, but then we can also be a voice from Docker out to the community. So we sometimes get sneak peeks of things that maybe haven't been announced yet, and prepare blog posts and help people get ready for them and that kind of stuff too. So it's a fun group to be a part of, and there's a lot of great industry experts, leaders, and from various companies that are involved, and so it's an honor to rub shoulders with them at times, and to learn things from them as well.
So, as you know, this is part of our It's Okay to Be New series, kind of targeting people who may have not been a part of the tech community before. As a part of the previous question, could you kind of tell us how you went from not knowing Docker to being a Docker captain, like what your journey was?
Yeah, it's been a long journey, but so the team that I'm on, about 3.5 years ago, we were trying to figure out how to solve various needs, and I won't get too deep into the technical issues we were running into, but we were running into a lot of problems to try to figure out how can we have lots of deployments for the different features we were working on. So, for example, we would work on feature X, and we want to be able to deploy feature X in an isolated area, and allow our testers to test that out in isolation. And we had tried lots of different things before, and they just had a lot of drawbacks, or it was really hard to keep them isolated, keep them working. And so we heard about this thing called containers, and we're like, let's see if it can solve our problem. And and we quickly realized that yes, it can solve that problem, but then it became addictive. And like now our dev environments are containers, and then our build pipelines are containers, and we're deploying our stuff in containers, and everything's containers, and containers everywhere. And it grew really quickly. And so my involvement with it started off with that little project, and then as we started to realize, hey, we've found something actually pretty powerful here. I got involved with the local community, and we started a local Docker meetup. And I've been running that for about 2.5 years now, and we've just had lots of training opportunities both on campus and in the community area. And I guess I've kind of become known as the Docker guy in this part of Virginia, which is pretty fun. And I guess my name's just gotten out there, and so Docker. I've gotten to know several of the people at Docker, and so somebody there nominated me to join the captains group, and so that's kind of how it began. It just started off small, and then just continued to grow, and I guess just share the passion, and of how it can help solve other people's problems as well.
Well, that sounds like quite an adventure. But I think that one
Yeah.
question maybe some people who are new might be asking is, what is Docker?
Yeah, and then that's a great starting question. Now, so one of the things that I want to clarify is there's there's kind of two things when you say what is Docker. There's Docker the company, and then also kind of Docker the technology. And so Docker is a company that just had their 5th birthday, I guess, back in March now. So it's still fairly new company, and they produce an open source product called the Docker engine, the container engine, and they've really worked to make this idea of containers more accessible to really everybody and try to make it as user friendly as possible. And so, yeah, we're starting to see, we saw the adoption by the Uber nerds first, and now it's starting to become more mainstream, and people that are just getting into technology are like, hey, I need to learn this container stuff, even though I have no idea what it is. And so the Docker company, they produce the Docker engine, but they also have the enterprise edition that they sell and help out large enterprises and help them with their DevOps pipelines and all that kind of stuff, help them run their applications and containers. So there's both the technology that helps run containers, but then there's also the company that produces that supports the open source software, but then also has enterprise subscriptions plans, that kind of stuff too, for extra features as well. So yeah.
I think I'm going to spring a follow-up question to you there.
Sure.
For someone who isn't part of the Docker family or the community, but they're interested in containers, what advice would you give them to get started, like get them started on their path?
Yeah, and I had this conversation quite a few times with other captains, because the amount of material, there's a lot of material out there, and we kind of have a running joke that if a blog post that you're reading is 6 months old, already start to be skeptical of whether it's up to date. If it's more than a year old, you probably don't want to read it anymore, because it just is evolving so fast. But at the same time, that makes it really hard to know, where do I get started? How do I get going? So one of the first places I send people to is Play with Docker. So play-with-docker.com is a website that you can actually, it gives you a terminal and you can try out Docker there in the web browser. So you don't even have to install it locally on your machine to just try out stuff. They also have a training site where you get a tutorial on the left-hand side of the screen and then the terminal on the right side. And so you can read through this tutorial and try things out as you're going along. Another great resource I send people to is a fellow captain who's also Virginian, Brett Fisher. He's got a fantastic course on Udemy that basically takes people from ground zero all the way through, and that's another great resource I like to send people to. And so his website, if you're interested, dockermastery.com, will get you started there. But honestly, and again, this is going to depend on the person. For me, anyways, the best way to learn it is just say, all right, I've got this problem. How can I solve this with containers? And yeah, it's not going to come overnight, but I'm the type of person that just learns best by doing and by trying it out. And there's plenty of resources available through the Docker community or online on Twitter, et cetera, that if you've got questions, reach out and ask, hey, how can I do this? And there are plenty of people that want to help out, including myself. So don't be afraid to reach out if you get stuck with something.
So that's all the time that we have for this week, but I think we're going to be following up next week with maybe not such softball questions, really get to the core of things. So once again, everyone, thanks for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe below so you can see next week's episode. Thanks again for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.